Hey everybody, my name is Ken Doyle, and thank you for coming to our second Warriors at Home meeting that we have, including speeches. Today we're going to be discussing PTSD, warning signs to look out for, and ways that everybody can help. A little bit about me. My name is Ken Doyle. I spent 5 years in the Army as an explosive ordnance disposal technician, and the last 2 years of that I spent at Walter Reed Naval Hospital in Bethesda, recovering after I had got blown up. After my injury, I had gone through my own battles with suicide and depression. I have lost friends to suicide, and my friends have lost their friends to suicide. It's a never-ending cycle with veterans and active duty military. This is an issue that we definitely need to stop, and that's hopefully something we can accomplish with Warriors at Home. We do offer a couple of different programs with Warriors at Home. First, we offer monthly meetings like we have today, where we invite all veterans and anybody from the community in, and we have speeches on topics related to our mission of preventing and eliminating veteran suicide. This way, it helps the veterans bond and form a social network where they can vent with one another and give each other tips and tricks on how to get over stress that they have in their lives. Also, with our speeches, we hope to help educate the community on issues that are being faced by veterans every day, and help them learn new ways to help get that veteran through it. We also have monthly recreational events for veterans and their families, and these events can be something as small as going to the movies or going to dinner, to something extravagant like going skydiving and go-kart racing for a weekend in Ohio. But those recreational events help to reduce stress in veterans' lives and help veterans just enjoy life while engaging with their community. The current statistic is 22 veterans per day who take their own lives. This statistic is pulled from only 21 states of the US, which is less than half, and that number can be even higher than anybody ever thought possible. Because once you get it, I don't want to get into the specifics of this study that they did out of the 21 states, but it's not all-inclusive, and there are many more veterans who take their lives every day than we have current numbers on. According to that report from the 21 states, the average age of the veteran who takes their life is 50 and older. So it's veterans from past conflicts and older veterans who have already came home and settled down in their lives, who just have issues that refuse to go away, that they can't escape from. There is a much larger report coming from the VA and the DoD, which will have a more accurate number on the veteran suicides per state. It's going to include all 50 states and better tracking of those veterans and suicides among veterans. These veterans may choose to take their own life as a last resort because they have intense emotional and physical pain that they can't escape and they can't get help for. A lot of veterans choose not to get help for their emotional and physical pain because it's a sign of weakness to veterans to ask for help. We've been trained so much to do everything on our own that it's hard for us to ask for help when we need it. But my advice is when you're talking to a veteran who is in desperate need of help. One way to help encourage them, maybe not say help. Just if they obviously need to talk to somebody, don't say, well, we need to get you some help. Instead say, hey, let's just go talk to somebody about it. We're not going to do anything, we're just going to talk. But let's get to the meeting here today. Today's meeting is about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And post-traumatic stress disorder can occur after someone goes through, sees, or learns about a traumatic event. Those include combat exposure, child, sexual, or physical abuse, terrorist attacks, sexual and physical assault, serious accident, or natural disaster. It's not limited to just veterans in combat situations. It can happen to anybody at any time. Most people have some stress-related reactions after a traumatic event. If your actions don't go away over time and they disrupt your life, that would be classified as post-traumatic stress disorder. Many Americans have had trauma. About 60% of men and 50% of women, 50% of women, experience at least one traumatic event in their life. Of those who do, about 8% of men and 20% of those women develop PTSD. For some events like combat and sexual assault, more people develop PTSD. After a trauma, you might have some common stress reactions, such as fear or anxiety. You may feel intense, or you may feel tense or afraid, be agitated and jumpy, or feel on alert at all times. These are signs of anxiety and fear. Sadness or depression may include having crying spells, lose interest in things that you used to enjoy, want to be alone all of the time, and feeling tired, empty, and numb. Guilt and shame could include feeling responsible for what happened, feeling guilty because others were injured or killed and you survived. You may feel anger and irritability, which would cause you to lash out at your partner or spouse, have less patience with your children, and overreact to small misunderstandings. You may also have behavior changes. You may act in an unhealthy way. You may drink, use drugs, or smoke too much, drive aggressively, neglect your health, and avoid certain people or situations. Most people will have some of these reactions at first, but they will get better at some point in time. If symptoms last longer than 3 months and cause you great distress or disrupt your work or your way of life, you should seek help. You should talk to somebody about it, because that could be a sign that you have PTSD. Symptoms of PTSD would include those that I've already discussed, and also include seeing somebody who reminds you of the trauma may bring back memories of the event. You may think about the trauma at work or school when you need to concentrate on something else. You may avoid crowds because they feel dangerous. If you were in a car accident or if your military convoy was bombed, you may avoid driving. Some people may keep very busy or avoid seeking help. This keeps them from having to think or talk about the event. You could have negative changes in beliefs and feelings. You may not have positive or loving feelings toward other people and may stay away from relationships. You may forget about parts of the traumatic event or not be able to talk about them. You may think the world is completely dangerous and no one can be trusted. You can feel keyed up all the time, which is also called hyperarousal. I don't like the word keyed up, it sounds dumb. You may want to have your back to a wall in a restaurant or waiting room. A loud noise can easily startle you, and if someone bumps into them, you may fly into a rage. these symptoms and these signs are pretty serious. They can affect your emotional life with your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend, or even your children. I've been there firsthand, and I know people who also have gone through the same thing, and it's serious. Some marriages, some relationships can't last through PTSD, but some can. It's just the luck of the draw, I guess. But what other problems do people with PTSD experience? People with PTSD may feel hopelessness, shame, or despair. Employment and relationship problems are also common. Depression, anxiety, and alcohol or drug use can occur at the same time as PTSD. In many cases, the PTSD treatments described in the Getting Help section will also help these other disorders because the problems are often related and coping skills you learn work for all of them. On drugs and alcohol and that type of stuff, a veteran may experience alcoholism. They may become an alcoholic or a drug abuser. And these are ways of hiding or their own ways of fighting with their emotions. They get some sort of relief from the alcohol and from the drugs that escapes their reality, if only temporary. And the more you use the drugs and the alcohol, the more tolerance you build up, so you have to take more in. But it doesn't stop the pain. It only masks it for a short time. How likely are you to get PTSD can depend on how intense the trauma was or how long it lasted. If you lost someone you were close to, or if you were hurt, how close you were to the event, how strong your reaction was, how much you felt in control of events, and how much help and support you got after the event. Some groups of people may be more likely than others to develop PTSD. You can develop PTSD you are more likely to develop PTSD if you are a female or a minority, have little education, had an earlier life-threatening event or trauma, have another mental health problem, have family members who have had mental health problems, have little support from family and friends, and have had recent stressful life changes. Dealing with my own issues and my own recovery and Walter Reed, one of the best things that you can have with you is a strong, supportive family. I think I wouldn't be nearly as, I feel, back to normal. I wouldn't be as nearly as back to normal as I was had I not had a strong support system at the hospital with me during my time of recovery. It's a strong thing that you can have. If you continue to be upset for more than 3 months, talk to somebody. You can feel better. You just have to be willing to accept that there are people there to help you. And even if that's just talking. Some people can get a lot of stuff off their shoulders, a lot of stress off of them, just by talking about it. It's not always easy for a veteran to talk about things that they've gone through or that they've seen. They want to keep it to themselves because they don't think that other people can handle it. And if you talk to the right person about it, it can help. There are some effective treatments for PTSD. The number one effective treatment for PTSD is psychotherapy, which is just a fancy word for talking to somebody. Talking to somebody who is trained, that knows something about PTSD, know something about veterans, my recommendation would not be to just go talk to somebody who knows nothing about veterans and nothing about war, because they are trained to deal with one type of issue, and that's all the issues here at home. There are certain doctors, especially at the VA, that have experience with veterans and have experience helping veterans through their mental distress. There are some civilian doctors too who have experience with that as well, but you have to find the right person. Talking to your battle buddy, your friend, your brother in arms would also be a great way to help alleviate some stress and to help overcome certain obstacles in your life, because they know exactly what you're going through most of the time, because they've been there themselves, or they're right there at the time. Right. There is medication that you can take, which are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which is a fancy word for antidepressants. I can vouch for antidepressants myself. For me, they work really well, but they're not always effective for everybody. And medications and antidepressants should also be paired with talking with a counselor, talking with a certified psychologist. Because if you talk to the wrong person, they will give you advice, they will talk to you, they will not understand what you're going through, but try to help you as much as they can, being kind at heart, but they just don't have the experience that's needed to help PTSD. If you or somebody that you know has PTSD, or maybe experiencing some signs or symptoms, my advice for you would be to get them to a mental health counselor at the closest VA. I know that some VAs aren't as good as others. There are some doctors who don't care, but no buts. Some VAs suck. We all know that, but no but. I would still encourage you to find somebody who you can trust and who you can talk to openly and freely about what you're going through. Even if that's just your battle buddy, because they will give you the strongest encouragement that they can, because they want you to get better, and they want you to get better. Other ways that you can help: if there is an extreme emergency, always call 911. If a veteran is experiencing some troubling PTSD symptoms, they're uncontrollable, they are just in a fit, or they're having flashbacks. If you feel endangered, you need to call 911. And 911 isn't all about arresting somebody. It's about getting that person help in an emergency. So if you tell them and explain to them that you have a veteran who is experiencing PTSD issues, they will bring an ambulance to you, they will take you to the hospital, and they will get you in with mental health professionals. Other ways that you can help is by calling, texting, or a live chat online with the Veterans Crisis Line. Their number is 1-800-273-8255, and you just press 1 after that. You can text the Veterans Crisis Line at 838-255. All texts, calls, and chats are completely confidential.